What's going on YouTube? Matt from GarageMC here, guys, in part 5 of the Trx465ex build. I bolted the head on, so today we're going to go over the torque specs for the flywheel, which is 94 foot-pounds. We'll get into that when we go over it and show what to use to lock everything together so you can actually torque on it without damaging something. And then we're going to do the timing, put the cam in, do the timing, blah, 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 blah. A couple other things we got to do too, so stay tuned. Alright guys, so we got to get some more stuff done on this quad. The CFM oversized oil tank that I'm going to run, somebody painted this with, I don't know what they painted it with, but this shit would probably deflect a 50 caliber bullet. Yes, I have a sandblaster. Tried that. It just bounces the media off of it. It's like a truck bed liner or something. So whoever did this obviously prepped it and whatnot. So I've literally been just doing a panel of it like every here and there, trying to get it done. Here's where we're at with this. This is the CFM oversized oil tank. It's got the cooling tubes and it's got a larger capacity. So I believe it's an extra half a quart of oil this holds, which is good for what we have going on. Yeah, I went a little overboard. I did the coil, the ignition wire, and stuff like that. I went up to an NGK boot for the spark plug. I don't like the original yellow, flimsy, floppy one. Put heat shrink on it, or heat wrap, the titanium stuff to match every other tube and the exhaust wrap and everything. I even did the oil lines themselves, even though you won't really see much of it, you know, but it's got to match. So we got that going on. I threw the oil cooler in. This is the vapor blasted one. I was going to do it black, but I'll just leave it bare. This way it can cool a lot better. A couple of the fins are, you know, tweaked a little bit on it, but no big deal. Also have something else that has to go on this oil cooler. One of you guys suggested to me to use one of those Tusk oil cooler fans or radiator fans, so I went ahead and bought one. I got this right here. So here's another 400EX oil cooler. So I'm trying to figure out how I want to run this, but the brackets line up pretty good with where you bolt the oil cooler to the frame, so it's going to need some modifications. I'm going to have to cut these lower plates off of here, or I could unbolt this fan, which is a Panasonic fan, and maybe just, you know, make a bracket to hold it directly to it. Not quite sure yet, but this is, you know, I'm kind of up in the air about using this. I'd like to put it on the quad. It's going to be a bunch of extra bullshit to go through. I also want to see if I can reverse the polarity instead of making it a puller fan like it is, pulling air through it. See if I can put it on the front and push air through it. That remains to be figured out yet. I still got to get my other oil line off of this. This bolt is pretty damn seized on there, this flare nut, so might have to just go in my parts bin and grab another oil line like this. Yes, we got all new O-rings and everything for where it bolts to the clutch cover and up by the oil cooler itself, where they go in there. If you guys don't know how that goes together, there's a little O-ring on here and a dowel. This is removable out of here. That's what locates it and seals it to the oil cooler. But so in this video, guys, I'm gonna get the cam out. It's our stage 2 hot cam. Everything's you know, I bolted the head down and stuff with the new gasket. I'll tell you guys the steps on that. It's pretty simple, man. It's just, you know, 4 bolts with the Kibble White head studs that are in there, and this is just laying in there right now. So let's get into it. So to put our cam in and set our timing and stuff, guys, we need to get the stator cover on. So to put the stator cover on, I gotta torque down this lightened flywheel that we had machined down. We weighed that in a previous video. It's, you know, a lot lighter than a standard flywheel. So the reason I have to put this on for timing is when you open your, you know, your 10mm Allen and the 6mm, so you could set your timing, you need the notch that's in the cover to set it with the fire mark that is marked out on the flywheel, which is, if I can find it, well, we'll go over it when I put the cover on there so we know where we're at. So to tighten this down, that 17mm bolt in there with that really thick washer behind it, that has to go to 94 foot-pounds, 94. So to do that, we need to lock up the other side so it doesn't spin. So tightening it over there is going to be making it go in this direction over here. So I have a Motion Pro gear jammer. We're going to get this set up in the way that it needs to go so we can lock up our gears, and this way we can crank down. 94 foot-pounds is a lot, so we're going to really need this to be nice and solid. Then after that, we're going to go ahead and put our stator cover on, and then we'll move into putting the cam and stuff in, which is a Hot Cams Stage 2 cam for this build. You guys seen already, we got Kibble White valve train and everything. The head's all ported and polished. We're going with the 450R carburetor from an 05 Trx465ex. If you guys didn't see that video, check it out. Had to do some custom stuff to get that to fit on a 400EX, but you know, we'll proof of concept will be seen soon with that. I got to ship the carburetor out to Curdy, which I need to get off my ass and go do. But like I said before, guys, we could do it with a stock 400EX carb and do the heat cycles to get the first start going. Then by the time that comes back, you know, I'll have everything else buttoned up. You know, the quad looks pretty much done, but we got a long way to go still. A lot of stuff to do. Anyway, here's the cam. So this is a Hot Cams Stage 2. Don't mind the Raptor 660 carbs. I just sold those on eBay. I got to ship those out too. So we got the Stage 2 Hot Cam right here, and OEM bearings. So you have two different bearings that go on the cam, guys. One is sealed on one side and is open on the other side, as you can see. We'll go over how these go in when we get over to the quad. And the other one, the diameter in here is a little larger, so you can't really mix match and put one on the other. The one with the sealed bearing goes on the cam gear side. We'll go over how these go in, obviously, like I said. The one with the seal goes on the right side of the quad. This is the part number for this bearing, OEM, is 91002-MN1-671. And then the bearing that goes on the left side of the quad, here's the part number for this one, OEM, 91003-KF0008. Alright, let me go ahead and start getting prepped up. I got to torque that flywheel bolt down to 94 foot-pounds, and let's start doing the timing on this thing. Alright guys, so we just ran into a problem. I went to go tighten that down to 94 foot-pounds, and the aftermarket, well, it's an OEM flywheel, but it was machined down, so it's a lightweight flywheel. Got a little bit of a problem with that. Let me show you guys what the problem is and what my thoughts are on how to figure this out. Here's our unlightened flywheel, just regular stock OEM flywheel. You see these marks here? You got your fire mark and you got your T for top dead center. Well, the machined flywheel, and here you can look, see where the keyway is. So here it is on this one as well. So the T is in line with the keyway. Well, those marks were machined off of this, so there's no marks on it to do the timing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the unmachined flywheel on the quad. I'll set the stator cover on there. I'll get it to the exact mark that it's on. I'll take the stator cover back off, put the lightweight flywheel on without spinning the engine at all. We won't need to put the bolt in to do this because the keyway's there. This keyway here, so it'll be, you know, where it's at. I put the head on with the piston all the way at top dead center anyway. That's how I, you know, do this. I put it at TDC right off the bat. But, well, you know, these teeth are, the teeth on the timing and stuff are small, so I want it to be exactly where it's supposed to be. So I'm going to do that real quick. I'm going to throw on the old one that's not machined, get it at TDC, pull the stator cover back off, pull this off, put the other one on, put the stator cover back on, and then make my own mark on the lip of this where it is supposed to be. So let me do that real quick, and then we'll pick back up. This is like I was saying before, guys, this is just all the little stuff you run into when you do a bunch of upgrades and stuff. Not everything's just bolted on and go. There's a lot of stuff that has to be considered and taken care of. That is unforeseen usually, but you know, lesson learned. Now we know what to do for next time. Let me get it done, and then we'll pick back up. And there we have it, guys. I even put a little T on there. So I just used this little mini cordless engraver that I have and did exactly what I said. Tim stopped by, so I had him just, you know, hold back on the gear on that side. I loosely fit the other flywheel that wasn't machined, put this stator cover on, put it at TDC, and then pulled it off carefully, put this one on, put the cover back on, and then recreated the line for TDC, and got like spot the hell on, guys. It worked out really good. You can see this is where the pickup is that sends a signal to the spark plug to fire. And then if you look over here, you see we got 1, 2, 3, and this is right on the edge of that third hole. So looking here at the other one, you got your pickup, and then we got hole 1, 2, and 3 right on the edge of it. So made out pretty damn good. So all right, let me torque this down, and then we'll pick up where we left off. So let's start prepping this out. So before we put our cover on, there's a couple other things that got to go in here for the starter assembly. So you have this gear here along with this dowel. The dowel goes in here. So usually what I'll do is I'll just put the gear on there first, and it goes with the larger teeth going to the one-way gear, and it goes on here. I'll set it up like that, and then I'll slide the dowel in after I put a little bit of assembly lube on the dowel here. Just a little bit, and just rub it around the dowel. And we can go ahead and get this lined up and slid into that hole in the case there. That's where that goes. Just like that. So that's all that goes there. Next thing, we're going to put, I have this is our stator cover. This is a Wiseco gasket. And I did my normal, I rubbed it with maximum waterproof grease. It gives it a sealing effect, and also if you ever have to take it off, it will come off a hell of a lot easier. You won't have to sit there scraping the hell out of it. Like I've said before, guys, you could damn near reuse these gaskets if you wipe them with grease like this. Not a crazy amount. I just dab it on my fingers and then just, you know, just keep working my way around it, and then I'll go around it another time just to even it all out. All right, so now the next thing that can go on here is our stator cover itself. After I wipe this grease off my hands, I don't want to get it all over our fresh powder coat that I just did, even though there's already fingerprints all over it. And there's more gears that go to the starter as well. You're going to want to make sure you have your dowel up here, and there's another one that goes down here. It's pretty obvious where they go. They have anti-seize rubbed on them as well. This way, if we ever take this apart, we don't have stuck dowels. All right, so the stator cover, I didn't put the stator in there yet, guys. I'm going to do that here in a minute. I just want to get this on here so we can get our timing marks and know exactly where we're at, so we could do the timing on the cam, and then I'll just pull this back off. Not a big deal. I have a stator. I got to go pull it out of my parts bin, and I'll show you how to build the stator cover. Actually, you know what? Let me cut to that right now. All right, stator side. We got, obviously, your stator. And then in here go a couple plates. Like this one holds down the pickup that picks up the signal off the flywheel. Goes over here. I'll show you guys how all this goes in. We got this little bracket that holds the wire down where it comes up out the stator cover with this little rubber grommet. And if you guys are having sealing problems with these, make sure you clean off all the old dried off sealant first before you just go glob more on there. Part of the reason why I didn't tape off this section when I powder coated it, just to give it a little extra thickness. I usually never have a problem with these sealing, but you can put a little Honda Bond on there, or, you know, if you're cheap, you could use RTV from Napa or wherever is close to you. I don't have any more of the DEI heat shielding like I put on the rest of the wire harness, but I could do that after. So I'm just going to install this the way it is now. If you're using a used one like I am, this one I bought this new, and then it was used for maybe 15 hours of riding. You know, oil's down in there, so it makes it look crappy. You want to make sure you clean off all the sides of this, because these are magnetic and it will grab any maybe material that may have worn its way in and blah, 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 blah. So, all right, so how this goes in, you can see the way that this is made up here. So the wires coming out of the bottom of it, they go in like this because you don't want them in the way of the flywheel when it spins. There's 3 holes that mount it. They're 8mm bolts. So go ahead and set this up like this, and you can spin it and clock it once it's in there. Pick up the little metal part there, faces the stator, because that's what gets your fire signal off the flywheel. And then the rubber grommet obviously goes over here. So that's where we're going to start with, right like that. Next thing to go in, this is the bracket that holds the wire down by the pickup. So this goes in here, and this is magnetic, so of course it's going to want to grip on everything. All right, I'll go ahead and get that centered down there, and I'll show you guys a better view of this after I bolt this in so you can see what's going on. I want to make sure that the holes are lined up, and you're going to want to put your blue medium strength Loctite on these bolts, because you definitely don't want any of these to come loose where everything is spinning. That's for damn sure. I didn't put Loctite on here yet. I'm just lightly putting this together to show you guys how it goes together here. I will also, like I just said, pull this back apart and do everything with Loctite, like I said. All right, this piece here, this blocks in these wires. That's what holds these down so they don't hit nothing. So you see it has a tab here and like this tab here. They correspond with these 2 little tabs that are in the cover here. So this goes behind those, kind of like this, just like that. Slides in there like that, guys. And then you have obviously a bolt. Also, again, blue Loctite. This in here. I'll look up the torque specs, guys, but I think I'm pretty sure these ones over here, 88 to 106 inch-pounds. And these I will look up and put across the screen here for you for your torque specs. So that's how that goes in there. And then obviously the 3 bolts that hold these all in. That's it to put in the stator cover. So let me take this back apart, Loctite it, and then we'll get over to the quad. After I put this back on, we'll do our timing and put the cam in. All right, guys, here's your better look at how everything goes in there. You can see that those tabs to that plate are behind there. I scoured the whole 400ex climber manual and couldn't find the torque specs on this. I found that it's chapter 9 that shows you the charging system and everything. It doesn't specify these torque specs, so I did 88 inch-pounds on these 3 here for these plates and the pickup coil, and I did 106 inch-pounds on these. The reason I did more, because these are still 8mm bolts, but they're longer, so they have more thread to catch, so therefore you can go a little higher torque spec. At least that's the way it looks to me in the manual with most of the bolts. They're usually all like the same general area. 88 to 106 inch-pounds isn't a whole lot of difference anyway, but be sure to definitely use your blue Loctite on these. Here's the pickup plate like I showed you. You're going to make sure your wire's good and tucked under that plate. You don't want it like sticking out the side or to where the plate is pinching the wire to where it could rub through it. And yeah, that's it, man. So now I'm going to go put this on where we just left off before, and then we can start doing our timing. So we're finally at a point now where I can go ahead and put the cam in. I'll just give you guys a quick rundown on the steps that I got to this point from where we left off with the cylinder on, bolted down. Here's this. Got all of our bolts in there. I don't know if you guys will be able to see without a flashlight, but we got my timing mark that I made all lined up. I got the weight of the wrench holding it where it's at. We'll be going back and forth to double check that as we go. So after the cylinder went on, you put your forward cam chain slider into the little slot in top of the cylinder. Then you put your head gasket on. I threaded in my kibble white head studs by hand, bottomed those out, and then the head goes on. Obviously with our dowels and everything, where they go, there's one in the front and I forget, I think it's, yeah, one in the front and one in the rear. There's dowels on these 2 studs here between the cylinder and the head. The cylinder is the same torque specs as the head bolts. So Factory, it's in 2 steps. You go to 15 foot-pounds in a crisscross pattern on the cylinder, and then you go to 33 foot-pounds the second time around for, you know, OEM setup. That would be sufficient for what we're doing here too. I bumped it up a little bit, so I did it in 2 steps. I did 16, then 35, and then the same exact torque specs for the top. These are 12-point nuts, as well as the 12-point nuts that went on the cylinder studs as well. The cylinder factory bolts and the 12 points are 14. Up here on the head, these are 12. So we got our timing chain pulled up. Part of the reason why I left the clutch cover off while we're doing this is because sometimes this likes to jump off the gear in there, so it's best to just leave this off so you can do what you got to do and make sure that that's, you know, on there and it's not sliding off. Seen that problem in one of the last videos we did, like on the 05. Actually, that engine over there, it was popping off the gear down in the bottom end. So we got this just pulled up here out of the way, and you have locating dowels. You have to have these in your head. This is what keeps the cam from rocking back and forth. So make sure you definitely have those in there. There's a light coat of anti-seize on them. And yeah, so now we're at the point now where we can start to put our cam in and get the timing set. And then after that, we can, I'm not going to put the rocker cover on in this video, guys, because I'm powder coating that, the black chrome for up here. And I also have all brand new rockers and the shafts that go through it to hold the rockers and everything all together. All nice new zinc chrome color coated, whatever you want to call it. But you're going to want your assembly lube now. We're going to assembly lube all the cam journals where the cam rolls and the bearings roll. We're going to pre-lube our bearings, everything like that. We're going to put the cam in with the gear. So let me get out the tripod, set you guys up, and let's start putting this thing together. If you're looking for more of an in-depth how-to, check out my older videos, guys. This is just like an overview of what I'm doing, although I am giving you torque specs when I have them, you know, accessible. And in this video, and part numbers and stuff like that. But you know, if you're looking for something more in-depth, check out my older videos. All right, let me get set up and put this cam in. I'll move you around and show you different stuff as we go. All right, so we have our stage 2 hot cam, and I just lost something. That's great. What was that? I'll find it in a second. I got it. It's the bolt that holds the sprocket to the cam. One of those dropped out. No big deal. All right, so we got our cam sprocket here. These are, you know, they're not the same both ways. You got this side with the markings and the word out that face the right side of the quad, and the other side just faces in. Out stands for 180 out, and these 3 marks here are how we get our timing set. So when we're at top dead center like we are now on the crank, these 2 lines here, they're called horizon marks. They're level with the surface of the cylinder head here where the rocker cover goes, and then the other one points straight up. So if you have out facing up, that means you're 180 out. So up at top dead center, the lobes of the cam should be pointing down like this here. So that's how you know how to put the sprocket onto the cam itself. So with the rockers up here, you know, you wouldn't want your valves being opened right now, because that's how it would do it. If the lobes were pointing up, they're pushing on the rockers, which are in turn pushing on the valves and pushing the valves down. So right now they'd be pushing it into our cylinder, which we definitely don't want. So, all right, let me get out my bearings here. And we got to get our timing chain wrapped around the sprocket. This is kind of like fiddly and tedious, guys, but you know, you'll get a feel for it if you do it for a little while. Let me go ahead and throw some assembly lube in here too. Don't mind me, guys, I'm just winging it here. We're just doing this, you know, this is it. Not doing 50 takes to try and make it look easier than it is. I don't roll like that. It's not how we do around here. So, like I said, guys, this is just a little tedious to do. So, this is our double open-ended bearing. This goes on the left side of the quad, so it goes on here like this. And I shouldn't have put my thing to hold the timing chain down on the ground, but that's okay. Go ahead and put a little assembly lube in our bearing. Blah, blah, blah. Get this thing spun a little bit. Get some of that worked in there. And we'll go ahead and get this in here like this with our locating dowel. Just like that. Alright, so next thing that can go on is our gear. We could just go ahead and get this just slid into place for right now. Like that. We'll figure out where it goes after. And we're going to get out our other bearing, which is sealed on one side. This is important. The seal has to face the right side of the quad. So like this. Your oil gets pumped up into this little chamber here, and the cam is hollow. So this needs to be sealed, otherwise it would just, the oil pressure would push the oil right back down the timing chain hole. So you got to make sure you have this seal facing the right side of the quad. Otherwise you won't have the proper oiling going on in the top end of the quad. Let me put assembly lube in this as well. I don't want to go ahead and start this thing up dry, that's for damn sure. Would it get lubricated quickly? Yeah, but you know, you don't want to take the chance of premature wear on stuff. So go ahead and slide that onto the cam with the seal facing the right, like I said. Just like that. Make sure we're in our locating dowels. Alright, so let me relocate you guys over here and I'll show you what's going on this side now. Alright guys, so without our timing chain tensioner in here, we have slack with the chain. Actually, the first tooth that I put it on is dead on. So you can see we have our horizon marks, and then we have the other mark at 12 o'clock right above the bolt there. So right now, the horizon being with the mating surface of the rocker cover to the cylinder head, and also being at TDC in the hole with the mark that we put on our flywheel that should have had it on there already, but didn't. Now that we are set with that, and if you guys were off without the timing chain tensioner in there, you can pick the chain up off the gear and walk it like one tooth at a time in either direction you would need to go. Like I said, our lobes are facing down. These are 6mm Allen head bolts that go in here. There's one here, and then there's another one on the sprocket. So after you put this one in, and these get torqued down to 15 foot-pounds with a 6mm Allen head. You would rotate the engine to get to the other one, and then put your other bolt in, which I have to rotate and do now. So 15 foot-pounds, and Loctite is definitely a suggestion. So I would definitely run your Loctite on those guys, but you want to have your torque specs on point with stuff like this. So like I said, 15 foot-pounds for the cam sprocket bolts. All right, next thing I'm gonna do is I gotta rotate that, put the other bolt in, and then what else can we do in this video? Let me I'll show you guys how I make my starters all custom, and we'll put that together as well. So don't go nowhere yet. Let's do that and get that puppy in there. Before we go build out the starter real quick, guys, don't forget you have your neutral wire that goes on here too. Also, OEM Honda, here's the part number for that, 32102-HN1-000. So we'll have a nice brand new neutral wire on there as well. Other stuff, like, we'll get into wiring in the next video, but like here's like the positive cable setup that goes, well, normally by the battery. Well, it's still going to go by the battery, but it's going to go in our CFM airbox now with the battery relocate. Here's a part number for this, 32401-HN1-010. Just figured I'd show you guys those real quick before we go do the starter, which also is going to have brand new O-rings on it, which will, you know, these O-rings that go in between the cases here. So I'll just give you guys a quick overview of what I do, but here's the part number for these O-rings that go on a starter, which you'll probably never have to order unless you're a weirdo like me. 31207-KS5-901. They are both the same, obviously two. So your 400EX starter, this is a knockoff one. We're not running a knockoff one. I don't know, I have a pile of these because I always take Chinese shit off quads before I sell them and put quality stuff back on. But anyway, so this is what your starter looks like normally. I had the cases that go on the end of mine vapor blasted by James over at Moto Blast. You guys have probably heard me say his name more than my own. And here's the center part that goes to the starter. So I'll strip it down to this, obviously, how we are now. Obviously the O-rings won't go on until we're done here. But I'll take carbon fiber print vinyl, like a decent quality. This is matte finish, like a non-glossy. I'm probably going to run a glossy finish on this one, so I have to go cut a piece. But I will just wrap this nice and tight with a heat gun and everything, get it all perfect. Also, when I'm wrapping it, I'll make sure that wherever these two pieces overlap back together, I'll make sure that the seam is at the bottom of the starter. So, you know, where these two bolts go that hold the whole starter assembly together, I'll make sure that the seam is on the bottom so you don't see a seam. It just looks like flawless on it. So that's basically all I'll do. I'll wrap it and then I'll take a nice sharp razor blade and I'll cut along this line and get it real perfect. And then I'll, you know, put the new O-rings on there, sandwich it back together, put the two bolts in it, and there's a custom starter. Looks a hell of a lot better than something that's going to rust, because this part isn't aluminum. These usually have like a zinc coating on them, like this here. But, you know, I like doing this to stuff like that. We did this on the 426, and I also did this for Mike's 416 build that you guys seen. It was not too long ago, about a month and a half, 2 months ago, we finished that up. So I'm going to go ahead and do this now, and then I'll show it to you guys when it's done. And we'll put this on the quad and finish out the rest of the starter gears in there. The cover that goes on there, which is... where the hell's the other Stator cover I had? The cover that goes over this here, which is... here's one here that's like, I was going to polish it, but we're not going to run that on there. I'm going to sandblast and powder coat one, the black chrome, to match everything. So, you know, we won't put this on, but I'll show you guys how the gears and everything go in there. Alright guys, so change of plans. I can't find the little electrode that goes inside the starter because I pulled all this stuff apart months ago when I took it to get vapor blasted. I could see it where it's at in my head. I remember putting it in a box, but where, I don't know. If I can't find it, I'll just go take another OEM starter apart and take the part out, and then obviously put that one together when I stumble across it, which will probably be directly after I take another one out. Then I'll find the one I'm looking for. You know how that goes. But anyway, I don't want to make the video too long, guys. This video, you know, we put the Stator together, we threw the cam in, we did the timing, the problem with the flywheel, all that stuff. Next video on the 465ex, we're going to do all the wiring. I got some custom lighting I got to wire up. I'll show you guys the connectors I use for that, all automotive waterproof connectors. This way everything's all nice and sealed up. We don't have to worry about any water or elements getting into our electrical system. Also, that CFM air box, that one there with the battery relocate, we got to fit everything in there. That gets the battery, the air filter, the wire harness goes through that hole right there, the regulator, the starter solenoid, all that stuff goes in there. Normally on a 400ex, your negative wire on the 99 to 04 goes straight to the subframe, and then on the 05 and up, it goes to the subframe and the starter base. So we're going to do like a variation of the 05 and up ground wire setup. We're going to make all our own custom power and ground wires out of some 8 gauge. So, you know, we'll take care of all that in the next video, including putting the starter on, since that's electrical anyway. By the time, you know, that video comes out, I hopefully will have that friggin' oil tank stripped down and ready to be powder coated. Hopefully there's no problems with that. I'll have the rocker cover powder coated as well. And yeah, man, we're getting close to doing a startup on this thing. So thank you guys for watching the video. If you have not yet, subscribe. If you haven't, I mean, especially if you like content like this and you're still here watching, always throw me a thumbs up, man. It helps the channel huge. It only takes 2 seconds, doesn't cost you nothing. Just smash the thumbs up button for me, please. We're gonna have another little video between now and the next part on the 465ex. One of you guys asked me to show you guys how I get my aluminum to look like brand new aluminum. Obviously not the vapor blasted stuff, kind of like what we did on Mike's 416 build. I kind of did a slight overview on how I do that, but I'm going to, our next video, I'm going to show you guys like from a something that looks like junk and somebody would throw out or replace, how I strip that, coat it, and make it look like vapor blasted aluminum or make it look like new aluminum. And it's pretty durable too. So be sure to keep your eye out for that video, and I'll see you guys in the garage next time. Thanks for joining me. Peace!